What's up, Cryptoland? Black Crypto here, bringing you another cryptocurrency video. Are you still waiting for your 40 acres and a mule? Well, keep on waiting. I'm going to tell you what cryptocurrency has to do with reparations and how it might be able to solve our problem. Stick around. Before I get started, make sure you go ahead and you hit that subscribe. Make sure you hit that bell so you'll be notified anytime that I release any new videos right here on my channel. Slavery is still a concern for blacks in America today, and that's because it's still felt through racism. You have to remember that America was only founded a couple hundred years ago. You know, we know people today that are living that are over the age of 100, so we're really only talking about a few generations in the past. How easy we forget the truth. You have to remember that the founding founders were also slave owners, and they did take this land from the indigenous people. Through one of the reasons is because they weren't modernized or they didn't have any kind of guns. You know, the Native Indians received some kind of federal benefits from the government till this day. But you also have other groups that have experienced some kind of atrocity in the past that also have their own kind of communities, or they have experienced some kind of repayment from the government in some kind of way. Now, we're also talking about, for instance, like the Latinos. We're talking about the Chinese who have their own communities. I mean, hell, you have the Jews who created Hollywood. You also have us in terms of the blacks who created Black Wall Street in the past, but it was burnt down. You know, we have no homeland. Africa, we were taken away from, and then once we were placed here, we were stripped of all of our languages, our culture, and our heritage. Africa itself is being stripped of all of its natural resources, and the people there are being systematically oppressed against till this day. Examples like that has to do with Iraq and their oil, for instance. Now, if you move away from those examples of the past and you start going towards more of the modern day slavery, an example of that had started with in terms of the crack and cocaine epidemic of the 1980s, where America actually placed drugs into black communities and then they stepped aside as they watched the black communities go down and the black family start to disintegrate. Now, of course, nobody wants to acknowledge this and always cry wolf in the end. And one of the ways that America has done this is by saying, hey, let's start going after crime because crime is now too high. So one of the ways they started to do this is through mass incarceration. Now, one of the things that we all know is that America has made big business when it comes to the prison system or the prison industrial complex. Now, we all know when it comes to the prison industrial complex, when it comes to big business, that America has the highest rate in terms of incarceration, and blacks do make up a very big portion of that in comparison to the size of their own community. But you know what, guys? I digress. Let's not even continue to talk about that, because if that's not reason enough because of slavery itself, because of the crack and cocaine epidemic, or in terms of mass incarceration being enough for reparations, then I do not know what is. The question is will America start fitting the bill? Will America now start to acknowledge that they did wrong, not only several hundred years ago, but a decade ago, 2 decades ago? And it's still happening to this day. Are they going to start saying, hey, you know what? Let's make this a talking point for the election, because I haven't seen any Democrats or Republicans start saying, you know what? I'm going to really make reparations a factor when it comes to my presidency, and I'm going to make sure to create a plan, or I'm going to start a plan that's going to say, hey, this is how we're going to start paying back those individuals. The problem is that America can't fit that bill. The thing is that we're not Native Indians on a reservation where there's only a couple hundred of us. We're talking about millions of black Americans, and if we do get that money, we will be able to fight against our oppressors. Now, is that something that America want? Of course not. But I do know that that day is coming. And for us, in terms of black Americans, we do have an opportunity to seek out those reparations because of what was done to us in the past. And even if we do not get that from the government themselves, we can do something about it today. And that's where cryptocurrency comes into play. You know, cryptocurrency can be created within minutes, and using this blockchain technology, they can distribute it and monitor to whoever they actually give it to. Now, we all know that they can print money on demand when it comes to bailing out the rich. Now, when it comes to giving it to the poor, we're talking about a Robin Hood effect that we need to have happen because the government will not do it on their own. But if they were to take this stance, it would be very easy for them to do. Just like the Federal Reserve can go and print out hundreds of millions of dollars and give it to the banks, they can print out hundreds of millions of dollars and give it to black individuals as reparations. Let's go ahead and call this the minority coin, right? They can issue out this minority coin to black Americans as a form of reparations. Of course, when it comes to issuing this out to us, what are we going to do with this money? Are we going to go ahead and just spend this money, or are we going to take this money and do something very good with it? And I think this is one of the reasons why it has not happened as of yet. Now, we're talking about, of course, money. Now, when it comes to land, for instance, we were promised 40 acres and a mule. I have not received 1 acre or a chicken wing yet from the government for free. But we do know that they can issue this on the blockchain for us. Why not give us our own community, give us our own land, our own city that we can start building again? We can build a new Black Wall Street. Of course, when we're talking about when it comes to money, America has always watched its money. It doesn't care what we do to ourselves, whether it's our own personal well-being, but when it comes to us in terms of economic freedom, financial inclusion, this is a problem for the government when it comes to black Americans. Now, we all know, like I said, that we have a certain group of black Americans that would take this money and just squander it. They'll go ahead and spend this money on jewelry or spend this money on clothes or going out and partying. But you have a great deal of black Americans who are very smart and very intelligent who will really make some really great moves, some really boss moves in terms of what they would do with that kind of money. And I don't think America is actually ready for something like that yet. Now, is America going to set aside and let this community do that? We're not talking about in terms of a few hundred or just 1 million Chinese or Latinos or something like that in terms of America. We're talking about a sizable group that is in America. And when you give this sizable group money or an influx of money, you have to be kind of scared of what they're going to do with that. This is one of the reasons why we had to face, the death in terms of Martin Luther King, because not because he was talking about civil rights, because he started to talk about the financial inclusion, the economic freedoms in terms of black Americans inside of this country. That is one thing that America is very afraid of. Like I said before in the past, Black Wall Street was burnt down because Black Wall Street started to get very powerful. They started to get very self-efficient. But this is something that needs to happen in our future, because where you suppress someone for too long, eventually they're going to rise up. And this is something that America is paying close attention to. I mean, we are ones that have grown, rose from a concrete. We've taken lemons and made lemonades. Hell, we've taken pigs and made chitlins. And no telling what we can do in the future if we get our hands on cryptocurrency. And this is one of the reasons why I'm saying this today. We need to start taking advantage of cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency is going to play a vital role in terms of finances in the future, not only in terms of finances, but in many other different sectors in terms of technology and in terms of the world and the way that we use technology in the future. So if black Americans can start taking notice now, start building businesses and investing in cryptocurrencies, we don't have to rely on America in terms of giving us reparations. We can create our own reparations for ourselves. We need to start getting off of the notion in terms of waiting for somebody to give us something, in terms of having our hand out and waiting for something, and going out there and being proactive and simply go and take it. This is the position that I take in terms of what I want to do for my future, in terms of why I'm investing in cryptocurrency, because I see it as the future. And I know that once I invest in it now, like others should have invested in the past in terms of stocks or other different assets in the past and greatly benefited from it today, this is something that we can do today in terms of benefiting from it in the future. One of the things that I think that we need to actually do is build businesses around cryptocurrency. Start building things on the internet that individuals can come to and start using. This is one of the ways that we're going to start gaining money, because we are creating small applications that others can use. Not only that people can use right here in America, but people can use all over the world. Never before have you seen some kind of monetary system that allows to include any and everyone who has an internet connection. Before, we could not sell to people in Africa because the credit card fraud was so high. But now you can open up businesses and start selling to your people in Africa and take any kind of payments from them in terms of cryptocurrency. I think this is a very big advantage that we have, and we need to start taking advantage of it. Now, one of the things that Trump did in terms of a travel ban is in terms of banning travel to a lot of different African countries. I don't know why he did this, but if you notice on the Google Trends, if you do a search for Bitcoin, Africa is very high on the list, if not number one, in terms of cryptocurrency discussions. And one of the reasons why is because a lot of individuals over there are starting to use cryptocurrency as a form of payment. They're also starting to wake up in terms of not only being in India in terms of technology, but people in Africa are starting to take notice of technology and start to use it. And this is one of the ways that we need to start progressing ourselves as a community and start taking advantage of cryptocurrency. Now, there you have it in terms of what I think about cryptocurrency, and I think it plays a big role when it comes to reparations. Should we set aside and wait for our 40 acres and a mule from America? I do not think so, because when it comes to slavery, I mean, this is something that's deeply rooted and may never be exterminated. Of course, we can think about other assets in terms of stocks and in terms of land, or even rental properties might be something as a great asset to get involved with. But a lot of these are very expensive in terms of getting involved with. Right now, it's very cheap to get involved in terms of cryptocurrency, but it can play a very big role in the future. Not only should we get involved with cryptocurrency, we should start getting involved with building businesses around cryptocurrency. Now, this is one of the things that we can do for ourselves in terms of reparations for ourselves by going ahead and banding together with our community, taking advantage of this new technology and build something and grow in terms of our future generation. That's what I think when it comes to cryptocurrency and how I think it can solve our problems with reparations, not from the government, but us doing it ourselves. You know, some of the greatest inventions were brought to us by Black people. Some of those inventions, like for instance, a gas mask or touch-tone phones, call waiting, caller ID, fiber optic cables. We have carbon filaments in terms of light bulbs. We have traffic lights. We have the dustpan, the mop, ironing boards. In terms of medical, you have pacemakers and you have blood banks. You also have home security system or air conditioning. All of this was created and brought to us by Black individuals, although we would not remember that. But guess what? We don't know who actually created Bitcoin. But wouldn't it be a bitch if Satoshi Nakamoto was a Black man? Guys, thank you for checking out another cryptocurrency video. Make sure you go ahead and stop over to my Instagram and my Twitter at BLK Crypto. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.